Hey, 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 what is up, everybody? Uncle Mad. Day 4 of the FIFA World Cup is in the books. We are back live to recap and share my thoughts on everything that went down today. Pretty exciting day after not a great start to it. It turned out to be four huge matches today. We started the day off with Croatia versus Morocco in what was a perfectly scheduled match to be on at 4 a.m. If you want to help people wake up, 4 a.m. local time here. If you want to help people wake up and get ready to watch soccer all day long, there is no better match to start off with than that one. I'm obviously being a little sarcastic on that. It was a fairly boring match. Once again, kind of similar to what we saw with Tunisia yesterday against Denmark. The most exciting aspect of the match was how quickly Morocco was working to break up attacks, to break things up in midfield. They had a holding midfielder that had about 20 broken up attacks, and that was like the highlight of the match. Croatia looked very slow, lethargic, timid, didn't seem to have the quick attack. Modric wasn't able to really pull the strings like we've seen from him in recent major competitions. I don't know. It kind of looks like the European teams across the board really aren't up to speed. I don't know if they're kind of treating these first games as kind of a warm up, kind of slow in, protect what they have, don't kind of give up anything, and make sure you just collect the point and move on and be a little bit more up to speed for their second and third matches. I don't know if that's part of it or if it's coming out of their, middle of their season, if that's got teams a little more worn down. I kind of thought that would help that players would be a little bit more informed than what they would be normally coming into a summer tournament. But France looked really good. England looked really good. Spain today looked really good. Everybody else out of Europe so far has been on the struggle bus a little bit. It's been a little bit of lackadaisical, lethargic. Croatia, Denmark, Poland, Germany, just Wales until they had to light a fire under themselves after USA scored a goal. It's been very you're used to Europe coming in and being kind of the aggressor, kind of the teams that are a little more tactically skilled, a little bit more advanced in these tournaments, and you know with the exception of obviously France, Spain, and England, that really hasn't been the case. But also, I'm not so sure how good the teams that each of those countries really played against were. We'll see more as we get into the tournament. What's real, what's not real. But yeah, that match this morning, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Super boring. Did everything it could to put me right back to sleep. Not great. Not great at all. From there, we went right into the next match of the day. I'm so bored by Croatia. Morocco, I don't even remember what came next. Okay, there's four matches today. Who played today? Wow. Well, I know Germany played Japan because that was the big upset of the day. Japan pulling off a 2-1 victory over Germany. One I don't think many people saw coming. I knew Japan was going to be dangerous, but one thing we've learned in this tournament is I was completely wrong about what I said about Asia coming after the opening match. What I saw of Qatar, what I saw of Iran against England, I thought Asia as a confederation was not going to be well represented in this tournament, that they were going to be down in this tournament. And since that has happened, two Asian teams have pulled off two of the biggest upsets in World Cup history, with Saudi Arabia obviously knocking off Argentina, and then today Japan taking down Germany. And to be honest, with that Germany game, I mean, pretty much right out of the gate, I saw that Germany was going to have an issue because when I looked at their lineup and they were starting Nicholas Sewell as their right back, I kind of immediately just thought, what is this insanity here? If you're not familiar with Nicholas Sewell, he's about 8 feet tall, probably weighs about 300 pounds. Not really, obviously, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but he, compared to the size of a normal soccer player, he looks like the big show running around out there, which is not that uncommon in his natural position as a center back, because usually those are the bigger players on the field, or the central defenders. Right backs are usually the shorter, little quicker, pacey guys who can get up the wing, get crosses in, get back and cover on defense when they need to. They're not big, lethargic lurches that are out there like he was today. When I saw Germany's lineup, I thought they must be playing him as a part of a back three, and that somebody else in the lineup was going to be a wing back, because a lot of the times when you watch the lineup as they're stated with the TV broadcast, it's not necessarily the lineup formation that the team actually is playing. It's what the TV broadcast is guessing based on the players that were selected. So I thought surely Niklas Süle was tucking in, that they were playing a back three with him, Rudiger, and Schulterbeck, but he actually played right back, and more so than anything, that was one of the huge flaws, the huge things that cost Germany the game, because he was, in my mind, directly responsible for both of Japan's goals. He was out of position and lost his marker on the first goal. The second goal, his lack of positional awareness, I have to think, is of not playing that position normally, cost Germany, because he kept the last Japanese attacker onside for what essentially was an easy breakaway goal for him to score there. And everybody's looking around, like Rudiger was looking around like, how could that player have not been offsides? He was 5 yards behind me. And it's because on the far side of the field, Schul was just way out of position from where the rest of the back line was, and kept the Japanese attacker on side. But I mean, his flaws aside, Japan was just really good in this game. They went for it, and that's been another thing where I talk about the European teams kind of being a little lethargic, a little lackadaisical so far in this tournament. The teams that have been aggressive, that have really gone for it, seem to have, for the most part, gotten the results they deserve. Japan, Saudi Arabia, France, and England were both very aggressive in their attacks. It's one of the things, looking back now with the USA against Wales, when Wales was kind of sitting on their heels and kind of giving the game to us. Really kind of wish England or USA now would have gone for that more, maybe taken advantage of that more, because most of the teams that have been aggressive, that have really pushed the pace, have really pushed the tempo of the matches, they've gotten their reward with 3 points in most of the matches. Um, Germany just did not look like any German team you've ever seen before. I mean, beyond Seoul kind of killed them as an attack as well, because he wasn't able to get forward. He wasn't able to offer the support you'd expect to get out of a right back. So basically, half their field was cut off, because everything they had to do, they had to run through the left side of the attack. And when you're one-sided, that makes you very easy to defend. So I mean, it really cut their team off. You know, so it hurt them so much. I mean, they're already suffering an attack because they're without Timo Werner, who would have been their first choice striker, playing Kai Havertz as a nine, false nine, whatever you want to call it. And if there's one thing you should know from following soccer, Kai Havertz replacing Timo Werner as a striker doesn't work. Ask Thomas Tuchel how that worked out for him. Never worked. Thomas Tuchel got fired. Chelsea's been not at the level they wanted to be at since, then. They've been still looking for a striker, bringing Aubameyang in this year. Rumors that they might be one of the teams that might go for Ronaldo. I just find it so hard to believe that Germany, a team that should be so loaded with talent, that should have unlimited number of resource of players, the best option they had to put up top as a striker in this game was Kai Havertz, and the best player they had to put it right back was Niklas Schul. Like, how do you not have any other right backs if you're Germany? Obviously, Werner being injured is hurts their striking capabilities, but I mean, has to be somebody else in Germany that can play striker better than Kai Havertz, because we know it's not been the best track record for him over the last year or so playing that position. He did well, I believe, at Leverkusen, kind of playing as a nine, false nine at times, but hasn't worked in about a year and a half. So don't know why that was the best option for Germany today. And I really don't know why, if they don't have any right backs, if there's injuries, whatever the situation is, if they just haven't groomed any right backs to come into the team, why Joshua Kimmich couldn't have played there, because as I recall, that's the position he kind of broke into the national team, broke into Bayern playing. And somewhere along the way, I don't know when it happened, it was just decided that he was this world-class midfielder who just, it was a waste to be playing him at right back, and he had to be the hub, the center guy, the center mid, controlling games, controlling the tempo. And he's good. He's really good. I would, take him at Manchester United. I would take him as a USA player if he was eligible to play for the US, but he's not that super level, world-class, control the game, dictate play central midfielder that would make me feel like I can't put Leon Goretzka there and shift him to right back. I mean, he's not Iniesta, Xavi, Sergio Busquets, Frankie de Jong, players who are at that level that they have to be in the center of your team controlling everything. And they've got a lot of depth in central midfield, so if ever there was a time where you say, hey, we might need him a little bit more at right back, we've got the options to play other players in the midfield. I mean, right now, do it right now. I mean, I would be shocked if we see Germany come out and, play the way they did today again, Süle at right back, and maybe they were trying to play more defensively, just like I said, maybe they were just hoping to nick a 1-0 win, nick a 1-1 or 0-0 draw, and they got caught off guard by how aggressive and how good Japan played. I don't know, who's to say, but they've really put themselves in a hole, because you look ahead to what happened in the next game between Spain and uh, Costa Rica, the other matchup from their group. And that's going to be a problem for Germany to be down right now because you look at it and you think, all right, so Spain +7 goal differential, 3 points for the win over Costa Rica. Japan, 3 points for the win over Germany, +1 on the goal differential. You'd have to say, unless something crazy happens, Costa Rica is going to beat Japan, or Japan is going to beat Costa Rica. So you already know Japan is likely to be on 6 points at some point in this tournament. They've got 6 points accounted for. Um, and you're sitting there with 0 points. If you're Germany, you certainly would feel like you'll get a result against, Costa Rica, so that's 3 points. But if you're Germany, do you feel confident that you can get anything out of a game against Spain? I I wouldn't feel confident in that right now. And if Japan has 6 points and Spain gets a draw even against Germany or a win against Japan, they're on 7 or 8 points, 9 points even. And Germany's sitting there on 3 points with only win against Costa Rica, or 4 points, and Japan's got six. They're in trouble right now. That was a game, surprisingly, I think the way things have played out, that has put them really on the back foot. Like, it's very early in the tournament, a lot can happen between now and then, but of everybody that I look around in, there's a lot of draws, so there's a lot of teams that, aren't that bad off. USA, as much as it sucked, as much as we felt like we should have got that win against Wales, the draw, it's a point. We just have to go out and play well in the next two matches and see what we can get out of them. But Germany to be on no points, and especially for a team you wouldn't expect to be contending for maybe to go through, to be ahead of you on 3 points, and seeing how bad Costa Rica was, and just basically guaranteeing that Japan's going to get 3 points off them too, knowing Japan's going to have at least 6 points, knowing Spain is likely going to have, at least 4, 6 points, more. Yeah, Germany's in a bad place, but I mean, maybe it's the best time for that to happen, for them to get the bad result now, to kind of see their flaws, see their errors, see, how good Spain can be, kind of wake Germany up and get more out of them in the next few games. We'll see what happens there. It was very interesting because so many of the flaws in Germany's setup today came from having players playing in the wrong positions. And Spain did it too, but Spain kind of, it didn't hurt Spain at all because Costa Rica is just the most inept team I've ever seen at the World Cup. Like, I thought it was Qatar, then I thought it was Iran. Costa Rica is the worst team I've ever seen play in a World Cup. I mean, I don't know that they ever really got into Spain's third. The stats in this game, and I'm not normally somebody who really looks at stats in soccer. They're interesting from time to time. XG, it's a big thing now, but it really doesn't tell you much. Like the German Japan game, the XG was like 3.5 for Germany and like 1.3 for Japan. But Germany did not look like, I don't know where Germany had 3.5 expected goals in that game, because they had a penalty, which always gets you like a high XG rating. But beyond the penalty, there's maybe 1, 2 really clear cut chances that Germany had. And another one where XG is a little wonky. Spain won the game 7-0, and their XG was only like 3.2 or something like that, which is insane. But I mean, Costa Rica, I have never seen a team that did absolutely nothing. I mean, the old thing we've heard about Spain going back to the, early days of the tiki-taka era is that Spain, their thing now is passing teams to death. And you've never seen that play out like you did today against Costa Rica. They had like almost 1,000 passes to Costa Rica's like 160. It was like 970 passes to 160. That's unbelievable to have 800 more passes in a match than your opponent. Costa Rica had 0 shots, not even 0 shots on goal, 0 shots. What? And the thing was, like there's been some teams that have been bad. Qatar, I thought they were terrible, but they, they really shot themselves in the foot. They made a lot of mistakes, but they put a couple of decent attacks together. Obviously, Iran scored 2 goals against England, so they were able to find some stuff. Costa Rica did nothing. Like they didn't defend, they didn't attack, they couldn't pass together. They just looked absolutely awful. And like it wasn't like Spain was doing like any kind of insane, like brilliant trickeration to score, and that's probably why their XG was, relatively low, because the goals were just kind of boop 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 goals you wouldn't expect to score. But Costa Rica was so bad, you got those goals. It was unreal. I've never seen anything like it. Like, it was absolutely insane. Ben Wright, journalist who covers Nashville SC, pointed out on Twitter today that it was starting to, stick out like a sore thumb because we've moved from 23 players on the roster at the World Cup to 26. You're now seeing players wearing the kit number 24, 25, and 26, which you haven't seen in the World Cup before because they wouldn't let you wear above 23 when there was only 23 players on the roster. And it does look odd. Every time you see somebody running around in 24, 25, or 26, it's like, ugh, that just doesn't look right. That doesn't feel right. But today it was in Spain. That was another one that stuck out to me that was odd and a little bit of grating on my nerves was Javi, young central midfielder for Spain, really talented player, really good player, but he's a central midfielder. He was wearing the number 9 shirt, which typically goes to a striker, and if not a striker, at least a high up the field winger attacker there. So seeing him in number 9 didn't really feel right. Seeing Ivan Perisic, a winger, wear 4 for Croatia also didn't feel right to me. That one was another one that was a little wonky today. That's neither here nor there. Last game of the day we had was Canada versus Belgium. Belgium's a team that I've not been very high on coming into the tournament, and nothing they really did impress me in this game. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne, like I said, he's going to be the one that's going to have to carry them, and I kind of thought he did. He maybe wasn't his best game in the world, but he was everything they had. Anytime they sprung an attack, it went through him. The goal, he picked out the pass for Batshuayi to set that goal up. He set up a few other attacks where if the players were better, if it wasn't Michy Batshuayi that he was trying to set up, there probably would have been a couple more goals for Belgium, but it just feels like they've kind of peaked at their level at the golden generation. But fortunately for them, as good as Canada was in this game, you hate it for Canada. They played so well. They were, like I said, the teams that have pushed the pace, that have been the aggressors in these games, have almost always got all 3 points. Canada had, unfortunately for them, was the exception to the rule today. They were fabulous. They went for it. They went right at Belgium. Tons of good scoring chances. Should have finished. Couldn't quite get on the end of anything. Belgium gets one chance, one break, gets it 1-0. And that's what happens in, the major tournaments in soccer, World Cup. You have to take your chances. Early on in the game, Canada gets a penalty. Their star player, Alphonso Davies, steps up to take it. Just, the broadcast was giving Thibaut Courtois a lot of credit for making a great save on that. To me, it was not a well-taken penalty, and throughout this tournament, the penalties have been awful. I don't know that I've seen a really good penalty taken yet. Lewandowski's that got saved. Even the ones that have been scored have not been great. Messi's wasn't great. The one, I can't remember what game it was. There was another game, maybe today, maybe Spain, and their 7 goals. Maybe they got a penalty somewhere in there. The penalties have all been not great. Nobody's really just ripped one, placed it well into side netting or into the top corner. The ones that have gone in, they've mostly just got lucky that the keeper guessed the right way. Because I don't think I've yet to see a well-taken, good struck penalty in this tournament. So that's something to keep an eye on. Because once we get into the knockouts and games are going to be decided by penalties, if people can't take penalties, well, this tournament's going to get really interesting really quickly once we get to the knockout rounds. Yeah, but I hated it for Canada. They were so impressive throughout World Cup qualifying in the CONCACAF region. They were, far and away, I would say, the better team in the match today against Belgium, but just didn't take their chances. And the one Belgium got, they put away. And 1-0 win to Belgium. They put themselves in good position. Luckily for Canada, once again, another group where, because Croatia and Morocco played to a draw, losing out of the gate doesn't hurt you too much. You got a chance to get some results against those 2 teams. I mean, and if Canada comes out with half of what they had against Belgium today against Morocco or Croatia, I would expect them to get results in those games too. So, hate to lose it. It's a disappointing result, but much like the USA, you have to feel good about the way you played for the most part, and you have to have some confidence going into the next 2 games in the group that you're going to be able to get some results, get some points, put yourself in a position to go on to the knockout rounds of the tournament. Really, really good performance. I was very impressed by them, but they've just got to finish their chances when they get them because they were really bearing down Belgium's throat today and just couldn't capitalize. That was an exciting game. That was a fun game to watch. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow we have the last 8 teams that we have not seen yet in this tournament. And then Friday, Black Friday, we reset and we start seeing the next round of teams playing each other. The big one, obviously, Friday, USA England. It's going to be huge. But tomorrow, we have 8 teams we haven't seen yet making their debut in the tournament. We start out with Switzerland versus Cameroon. No idea what's going to happen in this game. I know next to nothing about either team. I know Jordan, how do you say his name? Shaqiri, he still plays for Switzerland. Um, Grant Xhaka is still there, so they've got two players I've heard of. If they play the way like some of the other European mid-level teams have played, where they come out and they're like passive and just kind of walking through the game, I would not expect them to get much out of it. Cameroon has had a few good runs in a few tournaments. I would expect them to be solid. We'll see what happens there. No idea there. Uruguay, South Korea. South Korea's got Son, one of the best players in the Premier League. He injured himself shortly before the end of the break in the season. Facial injury. He's gonna be wearing one of those fancy looking like masks to protect his face. If he plays, I don't know if they maybe rest him in this game, save him for a later part of the tournament or something like that. From what I've heard, the rest of their squad is not very good, but I'm not too up to speed on South Korea's team right now. I coached a lot of South Korean players that came over here and went to schools here in America, so they're another team that kind of have a little bit of sympathy for, a little rooting interest in. But Uruguay's going to be interesting. They've got Luis Suarez still, Edson Cavani still, kind of the heir apparent to that generation. Darwin Nunez, Valverde, who's become a star for Real Madrid in their midfield. So they've got good players. They're always kind of right there, kind of knocking on the door of making their way up into like the top tier teams. But I really don't know how you fit Nunez, Suarez, and Cavani together in a two attack. I would assume, maybe they play a 4-4-2 and two of those play together because none of them are really wingers, so you can't really play a 4-3-3 or anything like that. Maybe like a 5-3-2. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what they do because with those three, they certainly have solid attacking players. They've got decent players in the midfield and in defense. So interesting to see what they've got. I would kind of lean towards them winning that game just because from what I've read, from what I've heard, their expectations on South Korea are pretty low. But we have seen Asian teams pop up and surprise us so far in this tournament. I was very wrong about Asia, so maybe I should stop saying that Asian teams aren't going to do well. The next match, we got Portugal-Ghana. This one should be very interesting because, for me, as a Manchester United fan, I'm interested to see if the Cristiano Ronaldo saga has any impact on Portugal. Is it a distraction for them? Does it cause a disruption in the Portuguese squad because they have, Bruno Fernandes and Diego Dalot, who are there as, his teammates at Manchester United that I would think can't be exactly thrilled with how the situation has played out. They're going to say the right things and put on a brave face and do everything they can to win, but you can't, stuff like that, you can't help but let it get into your head a little bit, I would think. So it'll be interesting to see because Ghana, once again, another team, I don't know too much about what they're going to have in this tournament, but they always do well in the World Cup. They're always frisky. They're always dangerous. Probably not the best matchup for a Portuguese team that's going to have to figure out what it needs to do. And I said it before and I'll say it again. Even if Ronaldo plays, even if the players aren't kind of distracted by the situation with him, I think his legs are gone. I don't think he can play at the high level he thinks he can play at anymore. And so if Portugal is still building their team around kind of a heavy defensive approach, relying on him to poach goals, I don't know that that's going to work out too well for them. So it'll be interesting to see how they play, what they do, what his impact is for Portugal. And maybe he goes out and proves me wrong. Maybe he's motivated coming off all the situation with Manchester United to go out and show the world that he's still Ronaldo, and he comes out and all of a sudden has a fire in him that we haven't seen in months. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. Last game of the day, the tournament favorite on the betting odds coming into the tournament, Brazil against Serbia. Serbia is, similar to a lot of these other teams, kind of mid-tier European team. Decent players in the squad. They'll probably play a solid defensive low block to try to protect against Brazil because the reason, but I don't know how well it's going to work because Brazil just has so much talent. Brazil, they've always been huge on attacking talent. It's always been so big. It's, they've always been the beautiful game, Bogo Jonita, if I pronounced that right. I probably didn't. But that's their MO, attacking football, beautiful attacking football. But they've, got some really good players in the other areas of the field. That was kind of always what it was with Brazil, was they had the attackers always. But defense, goalkeeper, midfield weren't always their strongest areas. But they're really strong in those positions now. They've got Thiago Silva, great center back. Marquinhos, great center back. Dani Alves might still be their starting right back. Alex Telles, Alexandro, options at left back. I don't know who else would be right back for them. They have to have another right back. Um, Casemiro, obviously, who's come over to Manchester United, is a great midfielder, can really protect the back line, help out there. Fred, if he gets in, he can. He's always been really. He's one of those players like he's similar to Maguire, where he's always better for Brazil than he is for United. I think he has a more defined role with Brazil. I think he's more comfortable in what they ask him to do there. Don't know if he'll start though. That'll be interesting to see. They have options. That's the thing they have now is they have all the attacking talent like they've always had, but now they've got better options in midfield and defense, and obviously goalkeeper. They've got two of the better goalkeepers in the world in Ederson and Allison. Although Allison hasn't been on his best form for Liverpool so far this season, he's probably Ederson's backup anyway, so I don't know that we would see him in this tournament anyway. But yeah, Ederson, one of the best goalkeepers in the world. That's, at his best. Juan Carlos, the old Brazilian goalkeeper, was just okay. So they've got, more overall depth, more overall strength in the squad than maybe Brazil had, 8, 12 years ago. And they've got the great attackers. I mean, you've got obviously Neymar. Neymar, it's a shame he's playing at PSG because I think he had a chance to get himself to the same level of, stardom that Ronaldo and Messi were on. But felt like once he went to PSG, a lot of people just kind of forgot about him. He was kind of out of sight, out of mind there. Because he's a great player. He's incredible. I hope we get the good Neymar in this tournament. I hope he's not the, you know, rolling around the floor, histrionics, just the Neymar that everybody kind of hates. Seems like we've gotten that Neymar in the World Cup more than the Neymar who's a brilliant, talented attacking player. But they've got him. They've got Richarlison. They've got Vinicius Jr., who I think Neymar himself said is the best player in the world now. Um, Anthony, another player out of Manchester United, who's hit the ground running really well. They've got options in attack. They're going to be able to go. They're going to be able to attack. They're going to be able to get goals. It's more the bigger problem they're going to have, if anything, for Brazil is just going to be choosing who to put in because they've got so much talent. They've got so many options. Putting the actual puzzle together, saying, okay, we've got these 26 incredibly talented players. What's the right 11 that's going to get us the win? And like we saw with Germany, maybe Germany said, let's just get our 11 best players on the field, not worry about if we've got Bigfoot playing right back and a guy who's failed every time he's tried to play striker over the last year playing striker. Brazil, they've got options. I hope they don't do any kind of wonky, weird stuff where they try to get cute and get away with it. Serbia may be a team you can get away with it. That's probably why Spain got away with playing players out of position a little bit more than Germany did because Costa Rica was terrible. And it didn't really matter who played where for Spain today. They were going to crush Costa Rica no matter what happened. Serbia, maybe they're a little bit weaker. Maybe Brazil can do some outside the box things, but I don't think they need to because I think they've got players who are good at every position. They just, especially in the attack, I think it's pretty clear cut who the starting center backs will be. It's probably pretty clear cut who's going to be the fullbacks. Goalkeeper, obviously, is probably locked in. Casemiro is going to be locked into the midfield. Probably have two with him. I don't know if that's set in stone yet who that would be. But the front three, Neymar's going to be up there somewhere. So who's going to work with him? Who is going to be the complementary players that play with Neymar? That's going to be the big piece of the puzzle that Brazil has to solve. But they were the heavy favorites coming into the tournament. Some of the other favorites have really dropped off with Argentina's loss to Saudi Arabia. Now it feels like this could be Brazil's tournament for the taking, but we haven't seen them yet. Everything's, looks good on paper, but they don't play the game on paper is the famous cliche. So excited to see Brazil. Excited to see if they can live up to the hype, if they can be the high quality, really, really, really good Brazil that, 2002 is one of my earliest World Cup memories, and that Brazilian team was just so good with the original Ronaldo, with Cafu, with Roberto Carlos, with Rivaldo, Ronaldinho. That was his breakout tournament. Is this the time? It's 20 years since Brazil last won a World Cup. That's probably feels like an eternity to their fans. This probably feels like the one they want to go get. And there's a lot of Brazilian connections to Qatar. Qatar really kind of went into Brazil and tried to recruit players over there when they started their academies and their sports development programs. So a lot of Brazilian connections to Qatar there. So maybe there's just something in the water that's going to help Brazil finally, 20 years later, on the 20th anniversary of the 2002 World Cup, get their next one. So excited to see Brazil play for the first time. Excited to see 4 more matches. It is Thanksgiving here in America, by the way, though, so it's going to be interesting trying to balance that, watch that, because tomorrow I have to cook our turkey. I'm going to run a little turkey trot, race in the morning. And then obviously, oh my gosh, excuse me. Obviously, we'll have family over to eat and spend family time together and give thanks. So most of that'll be coming later. So it'll be like the late match, the 1 o'clock match, that Brazil match where might start to get in the way of stuff. Works out really well for prepping the turkey though tomorrow, that I get to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch Switzerland Cameroon. Kind of wish that was a better game in that spot, but I'm gonna get up at 4 o'clock in the morning local time to prep the turkey and get everything ready for that, so I can put it in the oven, go do the turkey race, turkey trot, whatever you want to call it. Come back just in time to pull the turkey out of the oven, watch some more soccer, and eat a feast. Whew. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow if I'm not in just a full on turkey food coma. I'll be back to review whatever we get in day 5 of the FIFA World Cup. Thank you for watching. If you haven't done so already, make sure you give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel with the bell turned on for notifications, and we will see you back tomorrow.